Alright, welcome to the video for how to edit audio if you are putting together a news story. So first thing you're going to want to do is get your story written the way, in the format that you are taught how to write. This is just your standard broadcast style writing story here. A lead for the anchor to read, a short little bit of information. This is a pretty simple story right here, all in all. There's really not a whole lot to this, but it's very, I guess, appropriate for what you guys would be starting off with. A couple of sound bites right here, a couple of throw lines for each one of them there, and I already have all of my audio set up ready to go. Oh, where are we here? There we are. That's what I'm looking for. So I already have all of my audio stored over here, and this is my original interview. Now, your original interview will obviously not look like the end product. As you can see here, this was me reading my script, kind of hit a hiccup midway through, had to start over, hit this part here. All of these is me just saying 1, 2, and 3 to kind of let me know when I start another portion on my story. Now, when you're recording your story, you do want to leave out some space in between parts where you're going to insert your sound bite. So this right here, when you're recording all of this, just this stuff right here, this is the stuff you want to record in your actual narration. That part, and these parts here. I like to leave a little bit of space in my recording so I know where I'm going to put in these sound bites here. So when I go back into Audition, I know that this right here is the first throw line to my first sound bite, and then this would be my second one. So now let's say that this is everything I don't want. Don't need that. Don't need that. I'm going to just do like a abbreviated version of an edit here. Don't need that. And we'll pretend like the rest of this is all my story that I'm using here. So we'll get rid of all this stuff. Get rid of all that. Go over to this multi-track session, and this is where you're going to be able to put in your sound bites and mix together your your narration that you do. So I'll take this golf course rough right here, and you see these little breaks here. This is how I know where my sound bites are supposed to be. This should not be here. So what I can go through and do is I can take this little razor tool up here, and I can cut that. I can cut there, go back to the mouse. I can just delete that part there, and then I know I need a bite there and a bite, not that, right there. So what I'll do is I can just remove these parts so I know where I'm speaking, and then I know where my interviewer's soundbite is supposed to go. So I interviewed Matt Flores. I know, where am I looking? Here we are. So I know my first soundbite is 11 seconds long. It's at this point, yada yada yada, intramural program. Go back over to Audition, and I know here's my first soundbite, 10.66 seconds, rounds up to about 11. I know this is what I need. Go back, I can just take this, drop it in my multi-track session right after I get done with my narration, so I can see where my throw is going to be to this guy. And then you'll see that I come back right here, but when asked if any plans to open a new golf course elsewhere, I need the second bite of him right here. So, we'll go back over to this. Here's my second bite. We'll take this bite, insert it in right after that throw right there. That is me saying, and if asked for any other plans to open a golf course in the future, then this plays right after that. Move this back over to make things tighter. One thing I like to go through and do is zoom in, and I like to get these things tight. So you see where this dead line is here. There's no talking right there. So what I'll do is pull that back in, or you can use the razor to cut it off. And I want to pull this up so this plays about 0.5 seconds after I get done talking. And then same thing vice versa. What I can do is just use the razor tool, use the R button on the keyboard as a quick shortcut to get you there. V gets you back over to the mouse selection tool. Take that there, you can drag this over, and also, side note here, this is your entire work area that you're working within here. The highlighted portion is what you're currently seeing down here in your current work area. So if you scroll up to zoom in or just grab one of these ends, that'll expand the area you're currently looking in. So I want to get this line just to kind of overlap this tail here. So what I'll do, put that tail there, and then I'll pull this back in to kind of get this to line up over this tail towards the end of that. Or I can just cut that back, pull this over here, and for the sake of this tutorial, that looks pretty good. So this is kind of what your story will look like once you get all the things put together. After you get to this here, just press spacebar or the play button down here, and that will get your video going. I'm sorry, not your video, your story going. That you can listen to it, play it back, make sure it sounds good all the way through. If you like it, after that, multi-track, mix down session, new file, entire session, and that is going to convert your entire file into one new file. Now, something wrong with this right here is this is what's referred to as mono. If you look through the rest of these things here, everything is in stereo. Stereo means there's two parts to the channel. There's a left and right, whereas mono, which comes through, it's just, it's just one channel all around. So you're not really hearing kind of the surround sound to it, so to speak. Just to kind of give it that feel, what I do is I'll go to Edit, Convert Sample Type, and then you always have to make sure the sample rate is 44.1, channel stereo, bit depth 16. Click OK, and then it'll turn it back to stereo there. So what the actual final thing looks like for me is this right here. We don't ever want our audio to peak much higher than about 3.5. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll do this amplitude and compression, and then I'll put this hard limiter on here. Generally, I will whatever you set the maximum amplitude to is what is going to be the maximum height that the volume is allowed to go to. So here it's set to -7 dBs. If I change that to, let's try 3.5, what that's going to do is it's going to put a limit on the amount of volume that this is allowed to output. So it won't be allowed to go any louder than 3.5. Now, you can see that there is not much that is louder than 3.5 dBs on here. So what I have to do is this input boost here, I will put that up a little bit to kind of give all of my audio just a little bit more volume to it. So click apply, and then boom, there you go. Nothing's louder than 3.5 on there. One other thing you want to make sure you go back and do is generally do this step before you start editing, because what it's going to do, it's going to make all of your audio have consistent levels. That way when you put it through the multi-track session and mix everything down, it will not look a little quieter like this in the middle. Now that all depends on your interview, how close you were with the mic, how loud he may have been speaking, how much background noise there is. But why you want to do that is, say you're in your car listening and this news report plays. This sounds perfectly fine and clear. All of a sudden, this guy's voice comes in. It gets a little quieter when he starts talking. Picture it being like if you're reading a document on Microsoft Word and you didn't go through and do this edit. It would be like reading a story in 48-point font, and then all of a sudden 3 sentences are written in 6-point font. Not really going to make too much sense. It's a little hard on the eyes. Likewise, it's a little hard on the ears. That person's probably got to turn up this portion in here, and then it's going to blast their ears when this comes back in. So that's why you want to go through and make necessary edits to your audio. After you're all done with this, save it to your News Public drive, and this is your final mixdown ready for air.